Now, speaking of progressives, Hasan Piker, he has been making headlines within the Democratic Party, but not in the way you think. So, for those of you who may not know, okay, this is going to be just a quick rundown of like who Hasan Piker is, at least in my view. Now, Hasan has been not only a Democratic, let's say, not even Democratic, more like a progressive, right? Progressive organizer, volunteer, commentator, Twitch player, influencer, and most importantly, he is the one who is really shifting the conversation and driving the conversation within Democratic Party politics. Now, he is also a Democratic Socialist. He's also, told his audience on Twitch and his streamers and even his YouTube channel, right, that he is someone who is not beholden to Democratic Party politics, meaning in a general election, if it comes down to a centrist Democrat or a Republican, he's probably going to vote third party. Whether it's independent or green, he is not one to just really, throw his vote away to like someone who's not really fighting for his rights. I respect that. The fact that he's at least willing to say that is good because it breaks us out of the two-party system. We know that a lot of corporate Democrats and Republican establishment and the corporate establishment really are two of the same when it comes to policy. I mean, it's no surprise that they both accept Democrats and Republicans. A lot of them both accept corporate PAC money. They both are fighting for, their corporate donors and the billionaires, right, on both sides. But then also it's no surprise that, when corporate Democrats want to say they support healthcare, they support access to healthcare, not Medicare for all. Now, you have folks like Bernie Sanders and AOC who are pushing for Medicare for all because they don't accept corporate PAC money from the healthcare lobby or big pharma. So that's the key difference. Hasan is very well versed, very educated, and informed on the issues. Now, for those of you who have watched, a Twitch stream or, him really connect with these politicians, right? He's done, interviews and talks with AOC, Bernie Sanders. So if you've ever had the chance to really like watch, he comes off as like a typical bro, right? More macho, more mask, more of a guy who's just kind of like one of the guys. But also he's not afraid to really lean into that because that's his authentic self. He likes to talk about weightlifting. He works out. The fact that he likes to be fit, right? He likes to look good. He knows this about himself and he is not afraid to say it. And this is probably his superpower. And what I mean by that is that the way he just leans into being himself, really taking on this strong macho persona, but also blending it with progressive politics. This is his superpower in the sense that he is now bringing more people into the fold, not just everyday people, but specifically working class men, even young men, and those who may not be tied to any party. They may be independent voters. They may be people or guys that just want to hear them and just like hang out for a bit, right? So it's kind of like the pipeline that we see on the Republican side with the red pill. A lot of like bros on the Republican side, conservatives, they work out, they post videos about, workout tips. And then during their conversations and tips, they start talking about politics. And their politics are very machismo, but also like toxic when they start getting into, sexist remarks, more racist remarks, and things that really are exclusionary. Whereas with Hasan, now he is more inclusionary. He has no problem saying he supports trans rights. He has no problem saying that, he thinks women should have leadership roles in our government, right? He is like the antithesis of what you see with conservative men. So the fact that we actually have not the liberal Joe Rogan, I'm not going to go that far, but the fact that he is a key centerpiece to bringing in outsiders into, let's say, Democratic electoral politics, but also just letting people know, what's up. He's done such a fabulous job with that is now scaring the Democratic Party. So the big issue with Hasan Piker is that he's been such a strong voice in opposition to the genocide in Gaza. He wants the genocide to stop. He doesn't want America sending any of their tax dollars over to Israel, whether it's for offensive weapons or defense systems, right? Hasan Piker is just like, nope, we're done. I've had it. No more. Netanyahu has got to go. And the funny thing is, the majority of Americans feel the same way. Poll after poll is showing that, there is more sympathy toward Gaza than sympathy toward Israel, because we've seen on our screens for since at least 2023 of all of the wreckage and like the just harmful images and dangerous things we're seeing on our phones, on TikTok, right? All coming because of the decisions made from Netanyahu and his government. So, as much as folks, do have sympathy toward Israel, like there are Democrats who do, just realize like actions speak for themselves. And the fact that we are now seeing the ramifications of like an entire population getting wiped out in front of our very eyes, that is a hard pill to swallow. And the fact that Democrats, especially President Joe Biden and former President Joe Biden and former Vice President Kamala Harris, have both, just accepted, the policy from Israel, or Netanyahu, I should say, that was the nail in the coffin for a lot of people on the Democratic side to coming out and voting for Harris in 2024. Now, as much as, Hasan has been a strong vocal opponent of the genocide, right? This has put a lot of moderate Democrats and centrist Democrats like on the defense, because they know like not only is he popular as a person, he has a lot of influence where people are really listening to what he's saying, but also like the craziest thing, right? How many times after November 2024 did we hear, "Oh, looks like that Democrats have a problem with young men. Democrats are losing young men, right? Young men or Gen Z are all siding with conservative Republicans because they're aligning with the machismo, like masculine kind of projection of strength in their candidates, like Trump was doing, even though Trump is older, blah blah blah." So we heard that for like a year straight. All of a sudden, Hasan Piker is finally breaking through to that same group, and they're like, "Hey, wait a minute! Like maybe Hasan is right. Maybe Hasan's not so bad." And like the young men in America are really, not all of them, but a good chunk are listening and like really becoming informed from Hasan's viewpoints. So now, from this past week, we saw Elisa Slotkin, senator from Michigan, right? Now, she's very in the middle. She has a background as a former CIA, working in the CIA. But then also, she did have to win a swing state. So to her credit, right, she didn't necessarily run on progressive policy, but she ran on very middle of the road. Like, I am what I am, and you get what you get. So to her credit, she was able to beat out let's put it this way. Trump won Michigan in 2024, but so did Elisa Slotkin. So that says a lot. The fact that Elisa was able to, at least gain the trust of her voters in that state, even though Trump won at the top of the ticket that same year. At least Hasan is pushing the party forward. And that is going to resonate with voters no matter where they are in the country, right? Especially if we're looking to change the leadership, which Hasan Piker is a strong proponent of. And Elisa Slotkin, she's fallen in line with Chuck Schumer plenty of times now. So it's not like she's exactly an independent thinker or an independent, like, she's not like Bernie Sanders, who really does what's right because he's not beholden to the Democratic Party. Where Slotkin voted for the Lake and Riley Act, right? She has voted for some some of Trump's bills and cabinet members, which, in retrospect, bad move, right? Because we've all seen what Trump's cabinet members have done. So fast forward, right? The fact that now we have Democratic establishment and a lot of politicians like calling out Hasan Piker, calling him anti-Semitic, right? Because of his opposition to what's happening in Gaza, is so disingenuous. It's not coming from a good place, right? We know they're doing it because they're scared he's having too much influence. And same thing with Trump, right? What do they do? You tear down the person's credibility. Trump is notorious for that, right? Belittling, lying about, right? But we see the same things with Democratic politicians. So the fact that Elisa Slotkin, who is Jewish, is saying that Hasan Piker is anti-Semitic because he's opposed to what's happening in Gaza, right? It's just, it doesn't come from a good place, right? We know there are disingenuous intentions. Whereas something that I believe it was on the Majority Report with Sam Cedar, they had brought up a very interesting clip where they had showed, not the full clip, but at least they showed someone had compiled 30 minutes worth of footage of Hasan Piker standing up against anti-Semitism. So the fact that Hasan, again, he's I don't want to say liberal, but he's progressive in the sense that he will fight for the marginalized, and he will stand up to bigotry, right? So if anti-Semitism is bad, right, then Hasan Piker will fight against it. Whereas like Elisa Slotkin should be commending Hasan Piker for that, right? Being like, hey, Hasan Piker, thanks for supporting our community. Like we support, all hate, all hatred has no home in the Democratic Party, right? That would be a more admirable message. But Elisa Slotkin is choosing to ignore all the times Piker has been a good ally, has stood up to bigotry, and has been active in this fight against, and has been an active voice in the Democratic Party. This is one of those times we need to stand in solidarity, right? Because if they're going after him when all he's been doing is like just as an influencer and speaking his mind online, they will try to take everyone down who disagrees with them, right? We see Trump do it on a national level with like these, corporate takeovers of like the social media apps. But the fact that Democratic politicians, elected officials, our taxpayer dollars are paying their salary and they are going against the viewpoints that are actually popular in their districts. So, that being said, please support Hasan Piker. Don't listen to everything you hear out there. And listen, if you're not a fan of Hasan, you're allowed to. Free speech. You're allowed to, feel any type of way you want to feel. But just remember, what are the intentions of the people calling him out? What is their message? And are they actually countering apparently what Hasan is saying or not saying with something better? From what it sounds like, the Democratic politicians are not, and they're really just trying to close ranks, right? The Big Tent party that they preached about for like 10 years is apparently not big enough for Hasan Piker, independent thinkers, or people like you and me who want to see a more progressive leftward vision carried out in the Democratic Party. So please make sure you do your homework, stay informed, because that is suitable for democracy. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out Hasan Piker and see what he has to say for yourself. But then when you're done with that, make sure to subscribe to Not Suitable for Democracy on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube.